All right, today we're going to talk about something that's been wildly misunderstood for, well, pretty much forever, female sexual desire. And what the science is now revealing might just change everything you thought you knew. So let's just jump right in with a pretty staggering number. What if I told you that a whopping 90% of women have been taught something that's completely wrong about how their own desire works? A misunderstanding that's led to decades of confusion and totally unnecessary self-doubt. You see, for years, we've all been sold this idea. The desire should just hit you out of nowhere, right? Like a spontaneous lightning bolt. But it turns out, for most women, that's a total myth. And the result? Millions of women feeling like there's something wrong with them, or that they have low libido, when in reality, their systems are working exactly as they're supposed to.
You know, this whole misunderstanding goes way back, all the way to Sigmund Freud. He famously called female sexuality a dark continent, basically because he couldn't figure it out using men as the default model. His view essentially framed women as defective boys. Yeah, seriously. And that flawed idea has been shadowing our understanding for over a century.
Okay, so let's start tearing that old myth apart. First up, we're going to dive into the actual science of how desire really works for most women.
So this is the big switcheroo in thinking, right? The old model was all about spontaneous desire, that sudden out-of-the-blue hunger that's actually more common in men. The new model, the one that's backed by a ton of research, is all about responsive desire. It doesn't just appear from thin air, it builds in response to pleasure.
So what does that actually mean? Well, think of it this way. For most women, desire isn't the key that starts the car. It's more like a feature that turns on after the car is already running smoothly. You often start from a place of sexual neutrality, and desire shows up as a response to feeling good and being aroused, not as the thing that kicks it all off. And hey, this isn't just some pop psychology idea. It's a well-established scientific framework published in serious journals like Sex and Marital Therapy. It basically validates the experience of countless women who felt, I wasn't really in the mood, but once we got started, it was great. That's not a bug, it's a feature. It's how the system is designed.
Okay, but here's where it gets even more interesting. There's another huge piece to this puzzle called arousal non-concordance. Fancy term, but it basically means there's often a gap between what a woman's body is doing and what her mind is actually feeling.
So for men, there's a pretty strong connection between physical, genital arousal and the actual feeling of being turned on. The overlap is about 50%, pretty decent. But in women, that overlap plummets to just 10%. Let that sink in. 10%.
So what on earth does this mean? It means that 90% of the time, physical signs of arousal in women, like lubrication, are not a reliable sign of what she's actually feeling or wanting. It's often just a reflex. It's kind of like how you might start salivating if you bite into a lemon, right? Even if that lemon is totally rotten and you absolutely hate it, your body's just doing its thing, getting ready just in case.
Okay, so if desire is responsive and the body's signals can be misleading, then how does it get switched on? Well, the answer is in the brain's awesome dual control system.
Think about your brain's sexual response system like a car. Super simple. It's got a gas pedal, that's the sexual excitation system, that's all the stuff that turns you on. And just as important, it's got a brake pedal, the sexual inhibition system. That's everything that turns you off.
And this right here, this might be the most important takeaway from this whole thing. When we feel like we have low desire, we almost always think our gas pedal is broken. But the reality is, most of the time, there's nothing wrong with the gas. The problem is that our foot is slammed down hard on the brakes, and those brakes are super sensitive to what's going on around us.
So what's hitting the brakes so hard in our modern world? Well, it's probably not a saber-toothed tiger in the bushes anymore. It's something much quieter, and it's totally invisible.
Yeah, we're talking about the mental load. I mean, think about it. Who remembers to buy a birthday gift for your mother-in-law? Who knows exactly what's in the pantry for dinner tonight? Who's tracking when the plumber is supposed to show up? Who's juggling all the kids' schedules? This is that endless, invisible work of managing a life, and study after study shows it falls disproportionately on women.
And being stuck in this manager mode is pretty much the psychological opposite of desire. It forces your brain into a state of constant planning and vigilance. But desire needs you to be present, to let go, to kind of surrender. When you're carrying the whole mental load, sex can feel less like an intimate escape and more like just another chore on the to-do list.
But it gets even more complex, because the brain system doesn't just manage if we feel desire, but also who we feel it for. And this leads to another fascinating idea, that the target of our desire might not be set in stone for life.
To understand this, let's look at the work of psychologist Dr. Lisa Diamond. She did this incredible study where she tracked the sexual identities and attractions of 100 women over a full 10 years.
And what she found was, well, pretty mind-blowing. More than 2/3 of the women she followed changed their sexual identity label at least once over that decade. And these changes went in all directions. Some identified as lesbian, then bisexual, or bisexual to straight, and a lot of them just ended up calling themselves unlabeled.
This really shows that for so many women, sexual attraction isn't some fixed point on a map. It can be fluid. It can change with different relationships, with different stages of life, with different contexts. It points to this incredible capacity for change that allows for unexpected attractions to pop up over a lifetime.
Okay, so let's tie this all together into a new toolkit. 3 key truths to remember. First, stop waiting for desire to hit you like a lightning bolt. Remember, it's a response. You can actually nurture it. Second, if you're feeling low desire, check your brakes before you check the gas. What's going on in your life, like the mental load, that might be holding you back? And third, trust your subjective feelings over your body's reflexes. Your mind, your words, that's your true north.
Look, the old models were just wrong. You were never broken. You were just handed the wrong map to your own body. You are not a defective boy. Your system is complex, it's adaptive, and it's incredibly responsive. Just understanding this new architecture, this new map, is the most powerful first step you can take. So the real question is, now that you have it, what are you going to do with this new knowledge?